What happens when two powerhouse women clash on daytime television in a way nobody saw coming? Today, we're breaking down the explosive moment that had everyone talking. When Zoe Saldaña sat down with Kelly Clarkson and things went from friendly to fierce in a matter of minutes. This wasn't your typical celebrity interview. This was something else entirely. Before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me your thoughts as we go through this wild story. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this plays out. The interview began exactly how viewers expected. Kelly welcomed Zoe onto the stage with her trademark warmth, smiling wide as the audience applauded. The energy in the room felt light, almost celebratory. Zoe smiled back, clearly relaxed, and the two exchanged polite banter that felt genuine. Kelly opened with safe questions about Zoe's latest projects, her packed schedule, and how she balances work with family life. Zoe answered smoothly, sharing anecdotes about long days on set and the challenge of staying present at home. At this point, it looked like a textbook daytime interview. They laughed together. The audience nodded along. Everything appeared perfectly under control. But then, subtly, the tone shifted. Kelly leaned forward slightly, her expression changing from casual to curious. She mentioned that she had been wanting to ask Zoe something for a while. The room seemed to hold its breath. Kelly brought up the ongoing online conversations about representation in Hollywood and noted that Zoe's name had come up more than once. The question itself landed heavier than expected. Kelly asked how. Zoe responded to critics who claimed she had taken roles that should have gone to other actresses. The temperature in the studio changed instantly. Zoe's smile faded, not dramatically, but enough for anyone paying attention to notice. She paused, taking a breath before answering carefully. She said the issue was complex and deserved more than a quick soundbite. She explained that she had always approached her career with integrity and had never taken a role intending to take something away from anyone else. Kelly nodded, but instead of moving on, she pressed further. She referenced social media criticism and emphasized that many people felt strongly about it. Zoe's tone remained calm, but an edge crept in. She pointed out that social media rarely reflects reality and reminded Kelly that her career was built on auditions, rejection, and hard work. Reducing that to a single narrative, she said, simply wasn't fair. That was the moment the friendly atmosphere began to fracture. What had started as polite curiosity now felt like something sharper, something more confrontational, and everyone in the studio could feel it coming. Kelly raised her hand slightly, signaling she wasn't trying to attack. She said she was only asking the questions many people wanted answered and reminded Zoe that the show prided itself on having real conversations. Zoe immediately challenged that framing. Real conversations, she argued, required context. What Kelly was doing felt less like dialogue and more like an interrogation, built on internet gossip. The audience fell completely silent. Kelly's expression shifted, surprise giving way to defensiveness. She said she was taken aback by Zoe's reaction and insisted the questions were legitimate. Zoe responded firmly, explaining that not every popular question was worth answering in the way it was being presented. She accused Kelly of starting from the assumption that she had done something wrong, an assumption she outright rejected. Kelly leaned back in her chair, visibly unsettled. She claimed she wasn't accusing Zoe of wrongdoing, only offering her a platform to respond to criticism. Zoe shot back that repeating accusations, as if they were facts, wasn't providing a platform at all. With Kelly's massive reach, Zoe argued, the way a question was framed mattered. It wasn't neutral, and it wasn't harmless. Kelly's frustration grew. She insisted she was a journalist whose job was to ask tough questions. Zoe let out a short, humorless laugh and reminded her that this was a talk show, not a hard news investigation. That comment struck a nerve. Kelly sat up straighter, her face flushing as she defended the credibility of her show and the awards it had won. Zoe clarified that she wasn't diminishing the show but pointed out that she had been invited under the expectation of a friendly interview, not to defend herself against accusations she didn't accept. Kelly snapped back that nobody had ambushed her and that interviews involve questions, whether guests liked them or not. Zoe agreed quietly that maybe she shouldn't have come at all. The audience gasped. Kelly's voice rose as she accused Zoe of suggesting she manufactured drama for ratings. Zoe responded evenly, saying Kelly knew controversial moments drove views, and that the question had been designed to provoke exactly this reaction. At that point, Kelly stood up from her chair, something rarely seen on the show. She declared that she had built the program on authenticity and didn't manufacture anything. Zoe stood as well, matching her energy. She denied being defensive, insisting she was simply being honest. The exchange had fully escalated now. What once felt like an interview had turned into a standoff, with neither woman willing to retreat and the audience frozen in disbelief. Kelly accused Zoe of attacking her for doing her job. Zoe countered that Kelly's job, in that moment, felt like making guests feel ambushed. She emphasized that she had done countless interviews and knew the difference between a tough question and a setup. Kelly crossed her arms, incredulous at the accusation. She repeated that the topic was part of the public conversation and fair game. Zoe broke down exactly why the question wasn't neutral, by asking how she responded to critics who said she had taken roles from others. Kelly had given credibility to a narrative and placed Zoe in a defensive position. Kelly argued that interviews existed to let people respond directly to criticism. Zoe shook her head, saying that if Kelly truly wanted her perspective, she would have asked about Zoe's own choices rather than leading with other people's opinions. To Zoe, it felt like being put on trial. The audience shifted uncomfortably, some members already recording on their phones. Kelly noticed and seemed even more agitated. She insisted she had always supported diverse voices and felt insulted by the suggestion that she had an agenda. Zoe clarified that she hadn't accused her of an agenda, only of asking a loaded question. Kelly repeated the phrase sarcastically, questioning whether discussing widely reported issues was now considered provocative. Zoe insisted that wording mattered and reminded Kelly that professionals should understand that difference. Kelly threw her hands up, accusing Zoe of turning the situation into a conspiracy theory. Zoe responded that Kelly had doubled down instead of acknowledging the problem. With the question, Kelly laughed incredulously, saying Zoe had been combative from the start. Zoe shot back that she had been forced into that position and never wanted this confrontation. She explained that she had hoped to talk about her work and connect with the audience, not argue on stage. Kelly challenged her, asking why she assumed controversy was the goal. Zoe questioned why the controversial topic had been raised so early instead of easing into the interview. Kelly hesitated before saying it was relevant. Zoe corrected her, saying it was relevant mainly on social media and that Kelly had chosen that over basic courtesy. Kelly's voice rose again as she defended her professionalism. Zoe countered by defining what professionalism should have looked like. Thoughtful questions, respect, and recognizing her humanity instead of treating her as content. The band leader glanced nervously toward the producers. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every raw second as the situation spiraled further out of control. Realizing the exchange was spiraling, Kelly took a breath and suggested they wrap things up before it got worse. She gestured toward the chairs, asking if they could finish the interview like adults. Zoe stared at her and said she had been the adult the entire time, setting boundaries and speaking honestly, while Kelly couldn't handle being challenged. That was the breaking point. Kelly's face reddened as she pointed toward the exit and said they were done. She refused to be lectured on her own stage by someone who couldn't handle a simple question. Zoe repeated the phrase "a simple question" coldly and said she was leaving because the interview had been a mistake from the start. Kelly responded sharply, telling her to leave and reminding her it was her show. Zoe looked stunned and asked if she was really being kicked off. Kelly confirmed it, saying Zoe had been hostile and combative. Zoe argued she was simply the first person with the courage to push back. Kelly stepped closer, insisting she had every right to ask questions and suggesting Zoe shouldn't do interviews if she couldn't handle them. Zoe stood her ground, accusing Kelly of wanting a viral moment and congratulating her for getting it. A producer finally stepped onto the stage, trying to de-escalate, but Zoe waved them off. She said she was leaving and accused Kelly of manipulating the situation for ratings. Kelly denied it, though her voice wavered. Zoe told her she still didn't understand why the question was harmful and accused her of throwing a guest under the bus. Kelly told Zoe she needed to leave. Zoe grabbed her purse and said she would gladly go, making it clear this wasn't about winning, but about self-respect. She said she refused to apologize for her career. Kelly quietly said she never asked for an apology. Zoe turned back and said that was exactly what the question demanded, even if indirectly. They stared at each other in silence, both visibly emotional, neither willing to back down. Finally, Zoe turned and walked off the stage, her heels echoing through the studio. Kelly stood there, looking shaken, before telling the audience they were going to take a break. Everyone watching knew something irreversible had just happened. What remained was a moment that would be replayed, debated, and dissected for days. Two strong women, one stage, and a clash that changed the tone of daytime television in a way no one could ignore.